Hello and welcome to DSEJ Teleclasses. I am Darshan and today we are going to read a poem from your English textbook. The title of the poem is
The Tale of Custard the Dragon by Ogden Nash. Before we start the reading of the poem, let's learn a little bit about the poet Ogden Nash. Frederick Ogden Nash was an American poet well known for his light verse, of which he wrote over 500 pieces. Nash was born in Rye, New York, the son of Mattie and Edmund Strudwick Nash. With his unconventional rhyming schemes, he was declared the country's best-known producer of humorous poetry. He received Sarah Josepha Hale Award in 1964. Throughout his life, Nash loved to rhyme. I think in terms of rhyme and have since I was 6 years old, he stated in a 1958 news interview. He had a fondness for crafting his own words whenever rhyming words did not exist, but admitted that crafting rhymes was not always the easiest task. In 1934, Nash moved to Baltimore, Maryland, where he remained until his death in 1971. Nash thought of Baltimore as home. Okay, so that was about the poet Ogden Nash. Now we'll read the poem. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little grey mouse, and a little yellow dog, and a little red wagon, and a realio, trulio, little pet dragon. Now the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little grey mouse she called him Blink, and the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward, and she called him Custard. Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth, and spikes on top of him and scales underneath. Mouth like a fireplace chimney for a nose, and realio, trulio, daggers on his toes. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Belinda tickled him. She tickled him Unmerciful. Ink, Blink and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the realio, trulio, cowardly dragon. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said weak, which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age, when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. Meouch, cried Ink, and ooh, cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that the pirate meant no good. Belinda paled, and she cried help, help. But Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little mouse Blink strategically mouseholed. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him, no one mourned for the pirate victim. Ink and Blink in glee did gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. But presently up spoke little dog Mustard. I'd have been twice as brave if I hadn't been flustered. And up spoke Ink and up spoke Blink. We'd have been 3 times as brave, we think. And Custard said, I quite agree that everybody's braver than me. Belinda still lives in her little white house, with her little black kitten and her little grey mouse, and her little yellow dog and her little red wagon, and her really-o, truly-o little pet dragon. Belinda is as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chase lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice safe cage. Okay, so that was your poem. I hope you have enjoyed these videos. Now let's try to understand this poem. You will see each of these stanzas of the poem, and there will be some definitions of the new words and also some questions based on the reading of the text. So, on your screen now is the stanza number 1 of the poem that you can read. Let's see if there are any new words. Fine, so there is the word wagon here. Now wagon, you must have seen in the video a small cart-like thing with 4 wheels is called a wagon. Alright, a cart. Another word is realio and trulio. So you must have read this word a lot of, being repeated a lot in the poem. A realio, trulio, little pet dragon. So realio, trulio are not actually any English words that do exist. These words have been created by the poet himself. And by these words, he means to say real. That means there was a real dragon. And dragon is a big animal with wings that breathes fire. Now let's see how much you understand this. Read this stanza, and after that match the things and animals with their colors. House, kitten, dog, mouse and wagon, and these are the colors: yellow, gray, red, white and black. So what color was the house? White. Belinda lived in a little white house. What about the kitten? Yes, black. Dog? Yellow. Mouse? Gray. And wagon? Red. Perfect. Let's move on to the second stanza. All right. So there aren't many new words in this stanza. There is a word coward that means someone who is not brave. Fine. Now read this whole stanza and try matching these. Belinda's pets: dragon, kitten, dog and mouse. She had 4 pets with their names. So what was the name of the dragon? Yes, Custard. And the name of the kitten? Ink. What was the dog called? Mustard. And the name of the mouse was Blink. Great. Let's move on to the next stanza. Now there are some new words: spikes, scales, and daggers. Let's see. Now look at this picture, and there are some animals that have a skin covered with scales, like you can see in this picture. And on the back, these pointed shaped things, organs, are called spikes, like you can see here. These parts of body, like you will see on the back of some lizards, some reptiles, are called spikes. So Custard had similar spikes on his back and also scales underneath those spikes. Now another word is daggers. Dagger means a short pointed knife used as weapon. You can see this picture here. This is the picture of a dagger. Fine. Now read this description of Custard and complete the sentences. You have to complete these sentences. There are some fill-ups here. Let's try completing it based on your reading of the above stanza. So Custard had big and dash teeth. What should come in the blank? Yes, sharp. Big and sharp teeth. He had blank and blank on his back. Spikes and scales. He gave out dash from his mouth. See, mouth like a fireplace. Fireplace where you light fire. He gave out fire from his mouth and smoke came out of his nose. Yes. His nails were sharp and pointed like daggers. Okay, let's move on to the next stanza. See now, Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears. Now we have two words here that I think one of them is a word barrel, and then there is a phrase in a rage. Let's look at their meanings. Barrel means a large round container, usually made of wood, and in a rage means very angry or furious. Now read this stanza again. You have it here on your screen, and answer these questions. Who was brave like bears? Yes, Belinda. Belinda was brave as a barrel full of bears. That means so many bears put together. She was as brave as many bears. Now what did Ink and Blink do? They chased lions down the stairs. Very good. Question number 3. Who cried for a cage? Look at the last line of the stanza. Custard the dragon cried for a nice safe cage. Okay, let's move on to the next stanza. Yeah, so we have a word unmerciful here. That actually isn't any standard word. The actual word is merciless, which means cruel, unkind. And another word is Percival. Percival was a knight of King Arthur who did not have the typical qualities of a knight, but then he was a very popular knight. So that is Percival. Now let's read this stanza and answer these questions. Question number 1 is, who did Belinda tickle unmercifully? Because you can read here, Belinda tickled him. So who is him here? Yes, Custard the dragon. So Belinda tickled Custard the dragon. Now why did they call him Percival? Yeah, Ink, Blink and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival, but why? Because Because like Percival, Custard also lacked bravery, ferocity, etc. Some qualities of being good at something. Okay, this is the next stanza, and we have a word giggled here. Giggled simply means laughed. Now let's answer these questions. Whose giggling shook the house? Of course, Belinda's giggling. Belinda giggled till she shook the house. Who asked Custard's age? Ink and Mustard. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age. Why did Ink and Mustard ask Custard's age? Why did they ask? Because he always cried like a child. Though he was a grown-up dragon, but he behaved like a child, and that's why Ink and Mustard asked his age. Alright, let's move on to the next stanza. Now we have some new words here. Nasty means very bad, unpleasant. Growled means made a low, angry sound. Pirate is a robber. Window is just a different meaning of the word window. In fact, that is not the correct spelling, but in order to rhyme this word with Belinda, the poet has invented this word himself. Now answer these questions. Why did they all look around? Because they heard a nasty sound. Why did Ink and Belinda cry? Meouch cried Ink and Ooh cried Belinda. So why did they cry? Because they saw a pirate. And where was the pirate? He was climbing up the window. Climbing up the window. Okay, let's move on to the next stanza. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that the pirate meant no good. Now, there is a word cutlass. That means a knife used as weapon. So cutlass is a kind of knife used as weapon. Now, in this stanza, the pirate has been described. Now, can you complete this description of the pirate? The pirate had dash in his both hands. What did he have? Guns. The pirate had guns in his both hands. He had a bright dash held in his teeth. Very good. Cutlass. Cutlass means a kind of knife. He had dash beard, black beard, and one of his legs was made of wood. Good. Let's move on to the next stanza. Belinda paled and she cried, "Help, help," but Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little Mouse blinked strategically mousehold. So, some new words. Paled means got scared. Trickled means ran quickly. Mousehold means hid in a mouse hole. Now, again, there is a matching activity for you. Match the characters and their reactions on seeing the pirate. So everybody, like Belinda and Mustard and Ink and Blink, everybody saw the pirate. So how did they react? This is what this activity is all about. So these are the four people or four characters, and these are their reactions. Let us match them. Belinda, what did he do? What did she do? Yes, cried for help. Blink. You can read it up there. Read in the stanza and then complete it. What did Blink do? You can see there. Hid in a mouse hole. The last line. Little mouse Blink strategically mouse holed. So he hid in a mouse hole. What did Mustard do? He ran away in terror. Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Fled means ran away. And yelp is that sound that dogs make when they are very scared. And Ink ran downstairs to the bottom of the household. Okay, let's move on to the next stanza. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. So let's look at some new words. Snorting means making an angry sound, especially from your nose. Dungeon. Dungeon means a prison. And these words clatter, clank, jangling, they are just the words for the sound of metal. Different words for that metallic sound, Now complete these lines about Custard's reaction to when he saw the pirate. Custard dash up with a loud dash. Custard jumped up with a loud sound. Snorting like an engine, snorting. He hit his dash on the floor. He hit his tail on the floor and sounded like dash in a prison. Irons in a prison. Moving with loud, fierce sounds, he attacked the pirate. Good. Let's move on to the next stanza. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. Okay. Gaped means looked with mouth open. Gulp means drank. Grog means alcohol. Flagon means a small flask. And gobbled means ate quickly. Now let's read these questions. How did the pirate feel when he saw Custard? Any ideas? Read this stanza. Do you find the pirate's feeling at seeing Custard? He was shocked and stared with his mouth open. The pirate gaped to look at something with your mouth open. What did the pirate do? He fired 2 bullets, which did not hit. What did Custard do to the pirate? He ate the pirate up. Okay, let's move on to the next stanza. And there are some new words here as well. Embraced means hugged. And mourned means felt sorry, especially at somebody's death. And gyrate means move in circles. Okay, now as you know, Custard ate the pirate. How did everyone react to this? Belinda hugged Custard. What about Mustard? Mustard licked him. What about Ink and Blink? They happily moved around Custard, who ate the pirate. Okay, let's move on to the next stanza. But presently up spoke little dog Mustard, and then up to that everybody is braver than me. Let's see if there is any new word. Yes, flustered. Flustered means confused or nervous, not knowing what to do. Now read these questions. What did Ink, Blink, Mustard and Custard say about themselves? Now read this stanza, and you will see what they are saying about themselves. They boasted that they would have been braver than Custard if they had not got nervous. And Custard agreed that everyone was braver than him. So this is what everybody said about themselves, except for Custard. Everybody said that they were very brave, but Custard said yes, everybody was braver than him. And now the last two stanzas are the same as we saw stanza number 1 and 2. The only difference is that those stanzas were in the past tense. That is not even the second stanza. In fact, that is in fact the third or fourth stanza, the second one here. But these two stanzas earlier were in the past tense, and now they are in the present tense without any change, much change except that. Okay then, so this was your poem, and I hope you have understood it. Now let's just look at the theme of this poem. As you can see that the theme of the poem revolves around this, the theme that one should not judge a book by its cover, because Custard was always made fun of for being a coward, whereas the others said that they were so brave. But when the time came, when a pirate broke into Belinda's house, now everybody was frightened except Custard, who charged at the pirate and ate him alive. The one who had seemed to be the biggest coward is actually the one who saves everyone at the end. So that is the theme of this poem. Now the poetic devices. This poem has so many poetic devices. I have discussed only a few of them here. Some examples have been given. Let's just look at them towards the end. So this poem is a ballad. Ballad means a poem that tells a story. This poem also tells the funny story of a dragon, and that is why the title, The Tale of Custard the Dragon. The tale means a story. So this poem is called a ballad. And the rhyme scheme of this poem is ABABCC. AABBCCDD. That means you have that rhyming couplet rhyme scheme here, or it is also called heroic couplet, where every pair of lines are rhyming. So the first line will rhyme with the second line, the third line will rhyme with the fourth line, the end words, So this is the rhyme scheme: A A B B C C D D, etc. Now there are so many similes used in this poem, and simile is a poetic device of comparison using words like or as. And the examples from this poem are: dog was sharp as mustard, mouth like fireplace, as brave as barrel full of bears, as brave as a tiger in a rage, snorting like an engine, like irons in a dungeon, and finally like a robin at a worm. You can see in all these examples you either have as or like to compare the two things. Now there are also some examples of metaphor. Metaphor is also a poetic device of comparison, but here we don't make use of the words like or as. For example, chimney for a nose, daggers on his toes, one leg was wood. Now you can see there is refrain in this poem. Refrain means repetition of a sentence or phrase, usually at the beginning or end of stanzas. So you can see at at some regular intervals, after some time you can find these words in this poem, and realio, trulio, and then little pet dragon kind of things. So this and realio, trulio, this is the refrain of this poem. Then there is this poetic device alliteration, which means the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of very close words. Normally the adjacent words, if not adjacent, then very close words. The first letter or sound has to be the same. This is when we call there is alliteration. For example, Belinda, brave as barrel full of bears. So you can see so many bees or burr sounds in some words together. Or he held in his teeth. So the sound H and also the letter H. And similarly, one leg was wood. So the sound W in one and was and would. And this is the poetic device of onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the process of creating a word that phonetically imitates, resembles, or suggests the sound that it describes. That means the sound of the word itself tells you about that word, tells you about the meaning of that word. This is when we call the poetic devices onomatopoeia. And the examples of the words like weak, or meouch, or clatter, or clank, or jangling. Okay then, so that was your poem, The Tale of Custard the Dragon. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. Thank you.